Hi, this is Via from Via Creates, plus my two darling puppies who are helping me set up my journal for June today. I just started this new journal and I'm so excited about this cover page in particular because I had it to match my journal color. So we're using lots of really pretty purples today as well as lots of greens and blues because the idea for this cover page is wisteria within an enchanted forest. I was inspired initially on a trip to Mississippi last year where I got to drive through kind of some of the back roads and got to see a lot of these really gorgeous wisteria trees, which as it turns out in real life do tend to be invasive, so that part wasn't great, but I thought it would be a really beautiful image for an enchanted forest. And I also wanted to include will-o'-the-wisp in this spread as well, just because I think that it is such a really interesting mythological / natural phenomenon. So if you don't know what these are, they are essentially like little blue or white lights that often appear near bogs, like usually in like Scotland, Ireland kind of area. And so they are said to like lead people down a path that might lead to usually things that are not good or like a journey that just ends up taking forever. And so I kind of liked the idea of getting lost along this path in the woods by following the will-o'-the-wisp. And of course, because this is an entirely fictional journal, it's just like a fun little journey to get lost to. I don't envision this leading anywhere bad, but you know, it's open to interpretation. So I just started by outlining everything. I used a lot of brush pens in this spread to get those nice details. I think that probably like these ferns were the hardest because as you can tell it takes like a lot of time to do each individual little leaf. Then after I kind of colored in the background, it realized that it just wasn't super visible, so I just had to go in again and create more detail there. But it was also very fun to do. I loved drawing the little leaves on the ferns, even though it took a long time, but it is still like a fairly simple movement. And the will-o'-the-wisp are definitely stylized in this spread, so I kind of drew them like these little almost like starfish-like lights that are appearing on the path, and I tried to get kind of this glowy effect around them when they were on the path itself to demonstrate that they are kind of like these like lights that are illuminating the forest floor. It's around here that I started regretting literally all of my life decisions because I thought I was going to hate the spread so much at this point. None of the colors were working how they were envisioned in my mind, and I had already spent so much time on it, so I didn't want to like go back and start over again. Plus this was in like a new journal, right? I didn't want the start of my new journal to be something bad or be pages that I had taken out. So I just desperately tried to fix everything, and so instead of doing like a purple background, I decided to go over with this green color to make it more olivey with that layering. And instead of doing all the background like this really dark green that I had started on, I kind of made it a gradient so it was lighter in the middle. And I think that really saved the spread in my opinion, because I think instead of having it be kind of a gloomy look, having it be really light in the middle made it a lot more inviting, and it added a lot more depth to the illustration. after going through all of that, the wisteria were fairly easy to draw, so I started with this gorgeous light purple base, and I used a brush pen to kind of demonstrate that there were layers and lots of little flowers within the, like, I guess bouquets. I don't know, for lack of a better term, we'll call them bouquets of wisteria. And then I went in and outlined everything with this dark brown brush pen just to make a lot of like the main details more clear and more obvious to the viewer. Instead of using dark brown to outline the wisteria, I decided to go for this darker purple instead to match the background of the flowers, and I definitely think that was the right move because I think it kept it a lot more ethereal and light looking, and it made it pop a lot more. This was definitely the point where I was like, okay, I did not completely fail at this cover spread, and so I felt comfortable to go in and complete the rest. So that included doing the lettering using a font called Rowan that I found on Pinterest, and I've been using this font for all of my spreads for this year just to keep things simple because obviously like these cover spreads are a lot more complex than I usually do, and so I just wanted one thing to be really easy, so I chose the same font for everything. And June is a short month, so luckily that did not take very long. I've got a little bit of time before September where the months start getting to be really long again, and then I have to figure out how to cram all of these letters into a much smaller space. The finishing details were adding in the date and adding in all of the background elements on this page. But overall, despite the initial challenges that I had, I really enjoyed making the rest of this spread and adding in all of these final details. So now I'm working on my reading list and habit trackers spreads, and I really was hoping that I would get to read this month, but I had a class that started So I knew that I was probably not going to have time to do much other than read the textbook, which I wanted to do in advance because I was taking physics and I am not very good at physics. I really struggle with that class in particular. So I knew that I probably wouldn't be reading much this month, but I still wanted to include this reading list just in case. I did know that I had one of my best friends visiting me this month as well, and so that was something to look forward to, and we both love reading, so I figured I would at least get to spend some time reading with her while she was visiting. Put these dimensions for my habit trackers up on the screen here. I like to keep them simple but really effective for me, and so I just do the same measurements every month. I really enjoy how this page turned out overall because I was able to do like just really nice clean habit trackers, which sometimes doesn't happen because I rush too much. And that allowed me to do a really gorgeous light purple background because I didn't have to cover up any mistakes. And I could do this really pretty lettering that I'm doing up here for the title for the habit trackers. To add to the lovely purple colors in the spread, I kind of added this purple shadow to the title here, and this is also one of the colors that I used in my habit trackers so that I could just really get all of this gorgeous color palette into this page, even though it's a lot simpler and had a lot less illustration than the cover page. When I was thinking about what I wanted my quotes page to look like for this month, I immediately envisioned just this really big bouquet of wisteria. So I had to search for some images of what wisteria looked like up close since it's been a while since I've seen some in person. And I noticed that there were just lots of hanging flowers that were kind of folded like this. So first I went in with the basic shape in the lightest shade. Then I used my medium shade to add in the shading. And finally, I outlined with that same dark purple that I used on the cover page. By this point in the year, I actually had to look for some more quotes. Usually I finish my calendar in December or January for the year, and that is where I put my quotes for the month. I put a different quote on each week to kind of read and reflect on for that week. But because this year has been so busy, I actually only got through the first 6 months of 2024 in my calendar. So I had a lot of fun looking for new quotes for the rest of the year, but including this month. And I got to kind of include some quotes that were really relevant to the month that I was living in. For example, I'd been listening to a lot of Lord Huron, the Strange Trails album, and so I got to include a line from one of those songs in here. And I had never done that before, but I thought it was like a really fun way to do my quotes page. I don't know that I would try to do it again because I do like to be a little bit more prepared with my calendar for the year. But, looking at the whole situation from afar, like, it's definitely not the worst thing that could happen by a mile. So it all ended up pretty good, and I had fun just reading and looking at more quotes this month. This month was also the month that I put my spring playlist into my journal. So usually by the end of a season, I choose that next month to write down my playlist that I had been listening to for the previous months. And doing it this way allows me to continue adding songs throughout the entire season and then be able to put the entire playlist into my journal and not have to worry about filling it in later. So I started with using this purple gel pen for the title. I love this shade of purple and I loved how bold it was. And luckily I didn't smudge anything when I was writing this, which I was really nervous about. Then I started by writing out my favorite songs from the season just in this little corner here, and that's something new that I started doing this year, which I really enjoyed because I do listen to a lot of songs in my seasonal playlist. So having those set aside as like these are my favorite ones from this playlist was a good way to reflect and to be able to look at a lot of the good memories from winter. So I decided to continue this into the spring playlist as well. Of course, I am totally adding more wisteria in this empty space that was left after I finished writing in all of the songs. And this one could be a lot more loose than the other ones just because there's like so much detail on this page already from all the writing. So I had a lot of fun just kind of freehanding these, and I found out that this brush pen was actually perfect for drawing the leaves on top because you really could get that perfect shape that was angled with it. And so I am really glad that I could just kind of have a little bit more fun with this wisteria. It was a little bit less detailed, but you could still definitely see what kind of flower I was drawing here. I went in and I chose these 3 highlight colors to finish up this page with. I thought this was a fun way to add more color because if there's one thing I'm going to do is fill up a page with all the colors that I possibly can. And it gave me a chance to use my mildliners more, which are like literally my favorite pens. So I will also find a way to incorporate them into literally everything I do. And here's a final look at all of these spreads. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the process behind my June bullet journaling setup. If y'all have any questions about anything, always let me know in the comments below. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day.